Hey, welcome to the Happy Rant podcast. I am Ted Cluck, joined, as always, in studio by my good friend, my partner in radio, Ron Martin. Ronald, we are without our boy Pipe again this week. Piper is a very important man. He's traveling. He's in Boston, which I hear is a nice college town. And he's
real
giving
warm
talks
this time of year too, I heard.
Yeah, lovely this type of year. He's giving talks. He's living the traveling speaker's dream. And where are you today, baby? Are you back home?
Yeah, baby, I'm in A-town. Everything's good.
Nice.
I'm heading to Indianapolis tomorrow, but I'm here today. So it's
baby,
great.
what's in Indy? Tell us about that.
Big M doing a little conference speaking herself, and then I'll be preaching at a church that's hosting the conference. So yeah, we're just doing the gig, man.
Dude, what a power family, man.
Oh, it's a power team. It's a power team.
It's a power team. Dude,
Absolutely.
I feel like, and this is no shade on anybody, but I feel like if you guys had like kind of skipped the music thing and started in ministry like at the very beginning, you guys would be super famous by now. That's my assessment of it. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm glad you did the music thing. It was what you most wanted to do. So that's what you needed to be doing. But I'm just saying.
You know.
I think the fame thing would have really popped at a high level, is all I'm saying.
You know, you never know. You never know why. You never know why is why and what is what. And
I think Big M could have gotten in on the ground floor of the whole like, women and reformed thing. She could have gotten some of that Jen Wilkin action.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Baby, she doesn't like. That's not. This is the thing about Big M, and you know her well enough to know this. Is that is not like her heart at all. She does these gigs where she gets in front of women and she speaks, but it's like it's not her sweet spot, you know.
Dude, what's she speaking about? Like pastor's wife stuff, like how to be
I think it's like
and all that stuff.
I think her talks are centered around like finding joy and fulfillment just in life, you know. And so stuff that we've had a lot of convos about recently, and
so a little less theological, a little more applicable.
Yeah, I mean both, you know. And she draws from the Wilkins and you know that whole team, that whole crowd, and she's but it's an interesting thing how God like kind of brought her into that, because it's not what she would say is like the thing that she like stays up late at night dreaming about doing at all.
Yeah, so she didn't dream about being like conference speaker lady.
No, not at all. I mean, not even close. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting actually. So
like you guys could have been up dreaming about that together. If
no,
that was
but
a dream
instead
of hers.
she was she was up shaking with anxiety, and I was sleeping like a baby. You know?
Oh, that's right. Just dreaming about those breakout sessions.
Dreaming about the breakouts, right? Nothing.
Get me into a classroom with like a dozen sad desks for a breakout, and I'm in my sweet spot.
Right, absolutely, man. Nothing gets the juices flowing like that.
Nothing gets the juices like wandering around with a map trying to find your breakout classroom.
Exactly.
Oh,
it's a glamorous life, baby. You know it. I know it. You know?
Yeah, I know. We've done it, man. We've been to that mountaintop. You know, it's a lot of excitement. Also, a lot of excitement. I feel like we have an embarrassment of riches right now when it comes to sponsorships on this program, Ronald. And I want to talk about the Dwell Bible app, and I want to give it the promo that it deserves, because when you and I are left, we're kind of like children. Being left in the house with a parent gone as it pertains to promos. But I want to give Dwell a real solid promo read because they're an app that we like. They're an app that reads the Bible out loud to you wherever and whenever you want, right from your smartphone. The link here, Ronald, is Dwell app. That's DWELLAPP.io/Happy Rant.
I think you got it, baby. Yeah.
Baby, if you go to dwellapp.io/Happy Rant, here's what happens. You get 33% off annually the subscription to Dwell Bible. So for only $19.99 a year, you can hear lots of different people from lots of different ethnicities reading the Bible out loud to you. So no matter what your proclivities are in that area, they have a voice for you on the Dwell app. And this is a great app. They've been a great sponsor, a great partner with the Happy Rant, and we are excited to promote their products. So dwellapp.io/Happy Rant. Pair that with a hot, delicious cup of Redbud coffee.
Baby, I'm drinking mine right now, by the way.
Baby, I'm drinking mine too, actually. And I know that, like, it could sound insincere when we say that, but I'm 100% sincere.
No, it's 100%.
I'm drinking a cup of delicious Redbud coffee.
Absolutely.
And I'm loving it, dude. The packaging is dope. What did you think of the packaging this last round, man?
Yeah, I dig it. I mean, I dig it. It's solid. There's it's kind of minimalist, which is right up my alley, obvi. And so I like what they got going there. I think it fits our aesthetic, which is what is most important, if we're being honest.
Absolutely, yeah. And, that kind of cohesion with the aesthetic that we've spent months and years like hammering out. Years.
Designing, branding. I mean, to me, Redbud is just now in the business of making coffee for the happy rant.
That's it, man. That's it. And we thank them for doing that.
Absolutely.
So look them up, Redbud Coffee Roasters. Order a bag and enjoy it. And we will get a piece of the action because we are coffee moguls in partnership with Redbud, which is what we always wanted to be. But baby, you've got a kind of an interesting topical direction today, man. You wanted to talk about embarrassment as a believer, and I think this is really apropos of right now because I think more and more Christians, especially Christians of a particular kind of like thoughtful ilk or level of education or whatever, it's almost incumbent upon us to feel embarrassed about Christianity and apologize to it. So to me, and I want to hear you on this, man, and I've got a little story for you, but to me this smacks very much of like standard 2004 emergent church stuff. And it feels exactly the same to me, where like our boy Donnie Miller made his bones by like writing this narrative section about a confessional booth in which people would come in and he would apologize to them about all the embarrassing things about Christianity. And a certain kind of like that was catnip for a certain sort of too cool for school I don't know, Christian in 2004. And I don't know, I'm feeling a lot of the same ethos now. And so just yesterday, I've got this student that I meet with on our campus, and he's amazing. He's a guy that I really, really like, really thoughtful kid, English major, kind of in his like too cool for Christianity moment, which as an old person like us, you can see that coming a mile away, and you could probably see it coming because at some level you and I probably went through it, lived through it, had our little dabblings in
still
that
dealing
area.
with it.
Still dealing with it. But he asked me to listen to this podcast called The Liturgists.
Oh, absolutely.
And I knew about the Liturgists. I knew that for me, the Liturgists was like, if you took the most aggravating person in the world and put them in front of the and put them in front of the microphone, that would be the Liturgist, just for me. I mean, it was like apex mountain of aggravation for me to listen to these people.
Oh, 100%, 100.
Yeah, but the whole ethos and vibe of the Liturgists is like basically we want to cling to some tiny shred of calling ourselves Christians so that if we accidentally get run over by one of our electronic cars and die, we don't go to hell, right?
Yeah, possibly, right.
But in all other ways, we're just going to absolutely rip and destroy and eviscerate everything that Christians hold near and dear. We're going to make fun of our kind of weirdo evangelical upbringings, which I feel like is the lowest kind of low-hanging fruit for Christians. And
it's true.
I really want to hear you on this whole idea of like, yeah, we're going to be at odds with the world. Like if what you like the most is being cool, I think that's going to be at odds culturally with what we believe, which is saying that you are sinful, your heart is broken, you need a mediator with a holy and perfect, creator of the universe, and Christ is that mediator.
Yeah.
If that's a message that you find profoundly uncool or offensive, like you're not going to like Christianity. And I don't know, baby. I want to hear you on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you brought up the Liturgists, right? And I don't have like a ton of like super longo experience with that podcast, but I know enough about it to know that like, yeah, it's almost a takeoff from the old, kind of dated-y, kind of emergent-y thing, from like 15 years ago. But it's almost like this idea that says like what makes us cool is sort of like locating and name-checking all the things about Christian culture over the past like 50 years that have been like decidedly uncool. And so at what point...
Which is most things about Christian culture.
Which is most things about Christian culture, like for sure. We can also find a lot of things in just general culture and secular culture that are really embarrassing and uncool too. So
totally.
it probably makes sense to mention that. But this whole idea that legitimize ourselves, we got to have sort of this snark against anything that's reeked of like datedness or like uncoolness, or has lacked any sort of hipster culture. It's like, my question is this, like, when does that become dated and uncool?
Well, dude, so that's a great question, because I think it's already there. I don't know. I feel like when I listen to and I hate this about myself, right? I hate it about my own like sinful nature, but when I listen to the Liturgists, I roll my eyes. I make some snide comment to my wife about how it sounds like, I don't know, Rob Bell circa 2004. Totally, and like, hey, on the Liturgists, there's this literal kind of breathless, like they're so impressed with themselves, right? They're so like in awe and amazement at their own like level of enlightenment. But I just feel like, gosh, you guys are, it's self-parody,
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's self-parody, and it's almost, well, and they get into like, we would agree, right, that they get into like dangerous territory, right? Because it's like,
most definitely,
because
man,
if you're just hammering out constantly about how orthodoxy isn't cool, and that's the reason why we want to disassociate with it, it's like, well, okay.
Yeah. I mean, to me, a podcast like that, it's catnip for a certain kind of person who's ready to do some like real grown-up rebellion.
Yeah, totally.
And
grown-up rebellion is a great word. Yeah.
Scripture is clear about what happens when you take kind of a weak person, or a person who's in a weak moment, and you lead them like down a path to destruction. And I feel like I've known a handful of people over the years that have been big fans of the Liturgists, and none of them are Christians anymore. And I mean, that's not a funny thing, right? That's the saddest thing. And I don't know, it just has me in this moment where I'm going, at the end of the day, I think we have to be clear about what we believe. And what you and I believe is going to be at odds with what the culture at large is celebrating. And I think we gotta, not to make this a martyrdom podcast, and I know you and I wanted to be funny today, and we're not being funny at all. But I mean, I think we got to be ready to take a hit,
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Taking a hit is going to mean, not being the super cool, enlightened guy all the time when we talk about gender, or when we talk about sexuality, or when we talk about, I don't know, pick a social issue.
Any
right?
variety of things. Absolutely.
Any variety of things. And, I do think there's this lukewarmness that's kind of permeating, where it's like people want to cling to this. They want to get their ticket punched to heaven in case they get run over by a bus, but in all other ways they want to reject Christianity, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah, and I think, and again, it kind of brings us back to this program, which is, I think, like from the beginning, like when somebody asks me about the Rant and they say, "Oh, so are you guys kind of cynical?" I go, "No, we're not cynical. Cynical is kind of like standing in the middle of something and basically saying like everything that we're a part of, everything that we're doing, it's for nothing. It has no meaning." And that's not what we're ever saying. What we're trying to do is we're trying to stand sort of like right in the middle of the tribe that we associate with, and find some of those things that are, I think, in a very hopefully kind of in a warm way, we can sort of poke fun at it. We can jab at it, because as we jab at that, we're jabbing at ourselves, because we're not removing ourselves from the mix of it, So we can kind of say, hey, we're in this bowl of soup, but we're also getting wet alongside of everybody else,
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's different than constantly being like just the sort of the critic that is never satisfied and always needs to be proven, always has to have everything like proven to them. And again, like in the sense that what you just talked about with the Liturgists, or when we get into this idea where man, we've come from, so you and I, we grew up in this, this evangelical scene. We did all this youth groupy stuff, and you look back and you go, oh my gosh, well, yeah, there were like these moments within that where you kind of shudder and it's kind of embarrassing, but it's like, we're not saying that it didn't have an impact on us, both positively and negatively, maybe in some ways, but it doesn't mean that we have to like sort of, push ourselves as far outside of the, of the circles that we've been brought up in to sort of prove that, hey, we don't want to be a part of that, but we do have a toe that's still dipping in it to legitimize who we are. And so I think it's this weird balance where we can look at a lot of these things, these cultural moments that have been created within Christianity and go, well, yeah, I mean, it lacked some, legitimacy in terms of like artistic content and some of those things. But like, dude, it's okay. Like we can't spend the rest of our lives, trying to say, hey, don't put me in that camp, and don't
totally.
Totally. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
because that's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
I guess where I come down on all that and vis-a-vis the upbringing and all that stuff, like I can look at something like the Left Behind books or whatever and go, like those were monumentally stupid and they're funny and I love laughing about them, and it's hilarious that those guys that wrote them are like billionaires now because of it.
We're just jealous hilarious, of them, baby. That's what it is.
I'm so jealous.
It's just that we were left behind with the Left Behind
Baby,
series.
I was left behind as it pertains to the money that is literally raining on those guys to this day.
Literally raining. Literally, like right now, they're under...
Oh, dude, literally, yeah. They've got like a cash umbrella, a cash umbrella. And yeah, baby, would I like some of that cash? I would. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say
we just weren't smart enough to write those books.
Dude, right? Because we were too busy being all like sniffy and hipster and cool about it when we should have been like collecting some of that cash in a bucket. But I guess the point is, I can say that those books were stupid and mean it, but I can also equally say, but yeah, during those growing up years, I'm still glad that I was around Christians, and like, yeah, youth group was weird and kind of stupid, but like, I'm glad I was around believers mostly, and I'm glad I was around adults who were trying stuff and failing sometimes, but who ultimately cared about my soul. And I guess that leads me to another question, kind of like circling back around to the Liturgists. And I want to get your take on this as a man of the cloth. So what I hear from students about that podcast is that it feels like a safe place for people who are questioning their faith. And what I tell them is, like, I want our university actually to be a safe place for discussion for people who are questioning, because we're all going to have questions about our faith. And I had questions about mine, and I still do from time to time. And I want my classroom, my office, our campus to be a place where people can have those questions. And I guess I'd rather them come to us than the liturgists for the aforementioned reasons of apostasy kind of being the end of that ball of yarn. So my question to you is, like, as Reformed dudes, how do we both like 100% affirm what it is that we believe and celebrate it and celebrate the kind of certainty that it delivers, while at the same time having a church or an office or a classroom or whatever that's also a friendly place to have discussions about questioning the faith? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I mean, I think you do that, just like we're trying to do that at our church, or, even talking about stuff on the Rant, you know what I mean? Where it's like, are you creating like safe hubs where it's like, hey, we're going to stick to orthodoxy. We're also going to allow things to be brought up that are going to, that are going to try to take some hits, against orthodoxy, but ultimately kind of always backing back up to the truth. Because, at the end of the day, man, there's not, I mean, as you grow in your maturity, there's nothing cooler than truth anyway. There's nothing more relevant than truth. And so I think we just really get knocked around by the aesthetics of things, by the aesthetics of the culture of things. And so there is this, there's this idea that sometimes we can be too tentative, because again, we don't want to offend, which again, those are good things, like, because again, we're trying to care about people's souls. We're also trying to care about, the place that they're coming from when they bring ideas into the space, and what may have happened in their life to have those ideas become generated in their hearts and in their minds. And so how do we do that? Well, we just say, hey, it's always okay to ask questions. In fact, what we would say is wrong is when you are in a place where you don't feel the freedom to ask those questions. But the question in itself can't just become the answer, right?
Totally.
So the question just can't be so all we're going to do is just ask questions and never come to anything solid, because I think, the Bible gives us some solidity with
dude, which was the whole deal with the emergent church movement in 2004, right?
Right.
I mean, it was all about, and the aesthetics were a little bit different. I mean, it was a little more like, I don't know, gauges in the ears and a little bit less.
It was
whatever
trying
it is.
So hard, Big T.
It was trying so
gosh.
hard. Yeah, it was trying so hard, and I think it's still trying hard, but in a different way.
So hard, man.
Hard. And the liturgists, God bless those kids, man. They are trying so hard.
Yeah, those 44-year-olds trying so hard.
Those 44-year-old kids. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and I think there's a part of me that will always feel a little bit sad just when I see somebody trying that hard. It's like, would somebody just like hug these people and tell them that they're cool and they could stop trying?
Well,
for a
dude,
little
it's
while?
Just kind of funny because like I was, you look, you go back and you look at some of these old school dudes, and like you look like Johnny P wearing the same sport jacket for like 60 years running. You look at pictures of like R.C. Sproul and like Packer, and you just go like, no, dude, here's the thing, that's cool because all they did was stick to they didn't care about all of this outer rim of like, fashion and, aesthetic and, trying to present an image and trying to brand ourselves and trying to create a platform so that every, this certain group will like feel connected to it. And you look at that and you go, oh, dude, like that's really appealing. Like a dude that wore the same sport jacket for 60 years running. That wasn't trying to be trendy. There's something so refreshing about that. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah. And I think we're drawn to a person who is more concerned about truth than aesthetics, right? And this is coming from two guys who are on the aesthetic concern spectrum, you and I. I mean, we're both concerned with it probably more than we should be, but I think we're also both like pretty drawn to the guys that aren't concerned by it, which is an interesting, kind of fanboy move by us. So here's a question.
Well, hold on, babe. We can laugh about our concern for it on ourselves too. So like,
oh yeah,
I mean, I care about some of the things I wear, and I mean, I because I just have an interest in like things of that nature. But like in no way do I let that sort of like motivate how I what I know to be true, or do I let that drive a stake in truth? Like what does that?
And
have
we
to
make
do
fun
with
of your church and your warehouse and your shiplap and all that, because at the end of the day, we know that you are more concerned about truth than you are with any of those other things. Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's just kind of worthless.
Yeah, dude, it's completely worthless, and in 10 years, it'll be something else. So speaking of that, here's something I've been chewing on lately. So at the beginning of the emergent church movement, there was a Republican in office. It was George W. Bush.
Yeah.
And right now there's a Republican in office, and we're kind of seeing another spike in sort of liturgists-esque emergent church, too cool for everything kind of behavior. And I wonder if it's just concurrent with whenever there's a Republican in office, there's going to be a little bit of a pendulum swing by kind of leftist hipster Christians. Like that kind of stuff is going to see a spike. You know what I mean? And I'm looking at this now. This is a less spiritual discussion and more just like, is this a trackable trend? You know what I mean? Is there just like business and science behind this, where whenever there's a conservative in office, there's going to be a spike in like people's interest in liberal kind of hipster Christianity stuff?
Well, yeah, no, I totally think there is, man. And here's what's interesting is like, I think we have new categories now, which is never a bad thing. So like if you're somebody that cares about orthodoxy, if you're somebody that cares about truth, like you're not automatically just a Republican anymore. Like, so those categories have changed. And so the people that the people that used to be able to, on some levels, maybe limited levels, used to be able to depend on to represent your opinion and your views on things, like, well, that just doesn't exist anymore, right? So now we have these new categories, that our politicians we refuse to let them create for us anymore. And I think I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a good thing in a lot of ways. But yeah, to your main point, which is like, yeah, we have this like quasi conservative, leadership in place now in the nation. So there's going to be this we would say there needs to be some good pushback against it because of how crazy it is. But like, there is definitely like, there's going to be like a massive, massive swing to the other side of that, like for sure, especially given just how crazy everything is in all of those categories now. Totally. And so, but even more so now, right? Like even more so than when GW was like doing his thing.
Because GW seems like an angel, by comparison.
Yeah, I mean, things are things are just straight bonkers now with everything.
Oh, yeah.
That it's just, I mean, and us, two of the least political dudes of all time.
I don't give a crap about politics. Never have.
Dude, but I mean, like, it's gotten to a place, like, that's the embarrassment. I mean, that's always been embarrassing, but like, things are at such a bonkers, embarrassing, don't put me in that camp level now.
Well, dude, but even that though, it's like and I want to pivot into an experience I had that I think you'll relate to. But on the politics thing, it's kind of like it's profoundly uncool now to be not sort of faux interested in politics. You know what I mean? Like I feel like in 2020, you got to be the guy who can walk into the coffee shop and have like 8 minutes of like faux deep sounding conversation on politics. And I'm just not that guy, nor do I have any interest in being that guy at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't care because I know that what I feel about it has no impact on anything.
I guess that's maybe where we get a little cynical, baby.
I think it is, baby.
That's where our cynicism comes in, because it's like, that's cool that you feel that way. Now tell me how that's going to change, like how you, tell me how you feel about how you feel is going to change anything about how you feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not. It's not. So
that's our generation,
baby, let me tell you about a thing I watched recently, and I had a bunch of reactions to it that I think you might relate to. So the thing is, The Irishman on Netflix.
Yeah, I never saw
Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. Yeah. Baby, you should watch it, man. Now, you're going to have to earmark like 3.5 nights to get through this thing.
I heard it's like watching paint. I heard it was really slow, man.
Well, it was. Here's the thing. It was slow. It wasn't really about anything. I mean, it was tangentially about the guy who killed Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah.
My take on it, and I've got like cultural aesthetic takes on it, but I've got a Christian take on it too. And my Christian take on it is that it's actually about serving the wrong master.
Wow.
And it's actually more Christian and thoughtful than Scorsese's supposedly Christian and thoughtful 10-hour movie Silence that came out a few years ago, which was just like 10 hours of me being tortured. But no, I liked this one, even though it was slow and it was kind of about nothing. It's real kind of course, vintage and kind of retro feeling. And I guess, like, as I was watching it, it really made me think about how much I loved what was absent from it. And what was absent from it was stuff like Twitter. Like, there weren't any grown men trying to be clever about Star Wars in 140 characters. You know what I mean? Like, there was no Twitter. There was no, like, GPS navigation. Like, dudes looked at maps, which I thought was cool. There were no compact cars. Every car in the movie was like huge and steely.
Dude, it was back
awesome.
when you had to take the long way home, man.
You took the long way home.
Supertramp would say, man, take the long way home.
Oh, good Supertramp reference. You know,
I mean, I did.
There were no young people of any kind in this movie. It was all old people.
It's perfect for a bunch of 40-year-old like middle agers. You know, it's perfect.
Dude, they did a weird like Polar Express thing.
They did.
They did a weird. Yeah, Polar Express thing with like Bob De Niro's face. It was creepy.
No kidding.
It was it was kind of insane. So Bob's like 80, and they tried to make him look like he was 35.
That's what I heard, man. That's what I heard.
Yeah, the Polar Express like CGI thing. It was bizarre. There was no Uber, so there was nobody like wandering around with their eyes darting from like their phone to the license plate of a passing car.
People had to be alone with their thoughts a lot more than we allow ourselves.
Dude, people did have to be alone with their thoughts. So because there were no smartphones, like that scene where, and this scene happened like 10 times in the movie, the scene where like the mob boss dismisses you to go sit in the bar or the restaurant and wait on whether or not they're going to kill you or not. Like in 2020, you'd be scrolling through Twitter in that moment, but in the world of the Irishman, you had to just sit there and like stare into the bottom of your drink and kind of like worry that you were going to get killed.
You had to wait. Like it was an era where you
had to wait.
You had to wait. You had to be alone with your thoughts. You had to wait. There was a sense of dread all the time that you couldn't like mask because you had your face in your phone.
Well, yeah, but you had to deal with your real feelings. I think in whatever moment you were in. You had to be fully in that moment and deal with your real feelings. And like,
it's fascinating.
Yeah, I just feel like in Gangster 2020, I don't want some grad student's take on Bernie Sanders to be like the last thing that I read before I get a bullet in the back of the head. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I just loved the retroness of it, and it made me think about just what life was like back then.
Baby, you should do a McCracken-esque article for
Baby,
like FTC.
I already did, man.
You did?
I already did. All right, except it wasn't for FTC. It was for our local paper, and it hasn't come out yet. It'll probably run this weekend.
Well, after it gets printed, you should get permission and let it roll out into some other.
Dude, I might actually. Yeah. I might see if I can get another little byline for the church, baby.
Yeah,
I feel like that's gonna be my new GCO. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By which I mean the thing that I publish a story on like once every 2 years. but yeah, no, that'll be good. By the way, speaking of that, I did a thing I never do, man. This happens to me. This thing that I'm about to describe, it happens to me like once every 2 years, and it's a good thing. And it's where I feel like it happens when I'm walking pretty closely with the Lord, and I just get full of appreciation for certain things. Mm-hmm. And I ran across the thing that @Jared C. Wilson wrote about the Patriots, and I sent him like a little fan note about it. I sent him a little email.
Okay.
And wow. It's the first interaction I would have ever had with Jared C. Wilson in my life.
Nice.
But I dropped him a little fan note, and he never wrote me back.
Really?
Jared C. What a douche. Yeah.
Oh, that's so not like Jared C. though. I wonder what happened.
Dude, it is like him because it is what happened. So it's very much like him, but no, it's okay, man. It's okay. It wasn't about getting a note back. It was more
maybe
about just
you'll
saying,
still
hey,
get a note back.
Maybe
Maybe you're in his get him a note back stack. You know?
Well, baby, he's so busy. You know, and there's so much travel, and which you're against now, right? Are you against pastoral busyness? I feel like that was a Yoda thing that you leaned into a little bit.
Dude, you know what it is, man? What I've noticed, this is what I've noticed, and I'm going to step on some toes right now, so roll with me for a second here.
Yeah, bring it.
It's a weird thing. So we're kind of in the middle, or maybe we're getting to the, we're kind of having this defining moment now where we are not allowing like pastors who have been bullies to like just continue their reign of terror. So like we've kind of.
What are you talking about? Like guys like Early Drisky or James McDonald?
Yeah, like these people that are being exposed, we're seeing like how damaging their leadership is, and we're not allowing it. So because we have categories for it now, we know what it looks like, and people are a little more brave in exposing it. Here's the one that's interesting for me is like when you get like these A-list dudes or B-list dudes that start talking about like their manic busyness and their schedule. And so what they're getting right now by like sort of like the Twitterverse is they're getting pats on the back like, man, you're doing this work for the Lord. How do you keep it up? And you know, man,
dude, those are the little pellets of recognition from the universe that we crave. You know?
Exactly. And so like right now, I just had this moment where I was like, so nobody's really seeing this yet. And yet, some of this busyness, some of this like this over involvement, it actually leads to some of these really like bad leaders that we've seen, kind of come through in the past. But it's also, I think it's also an epidemic in and of itself, right? I mean, it's no coronavirus. I'm just saying. I'm just saying like it's like this thing where I think it's going to have like it already has had ramifications, but I think in terms of like when we're breaking down this sort of celebrity pastor thing that we keep breaking down very, very gently and very lightly, and probably too gently and too lightly, this idea of like busyness, especially for like local church pastors, and I'm guilty of this as well. So I'm looking at myself in the mirror. It's like this is something that needs to be probably talked about, dealt with, and people that are like under the leadership and authority of some of these guys, this needs to be probably approached because I think it's a really big deal. And it's something that, it's something that nobody is gonna
Well, here's what's tricky about it, though. I mean, it's a big deal, and I totally agree 1,000% with everything that you're saying. But it's a big deal, and it's weird because the very thing that you are defining yourself with is the thing that you're now sort of convicted of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's hard to give up things that give us maybe the only little nuggets of affirmation that we're getting. So for a local church pastor who's probably not getting a whole lot of like attaboys and pats on the back from people in his congregation, like you're looking to that trip, you're just living for that little breakout sesh that you get to lead with low-hanging fruit and easy conference audiences where somebody's going to come up to you and thank you profusely and talk about what great work you're doing, you know, and all that is very seductive. So yeah, I think it's a profoundly hard thing to do, to step away from the one thing in your kind of work life that you would call fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's just, and I've found this in my own, you know, because obviously, you know, I'm not doing plenaries. We joke about that, but like, but like, I have enough busyness in my life right now, doing, you know, on the C level circuit, you know, kind of a thing, the D level circuit or whatever you want to call it. So it's really interesting to where like I've become like these last couple of months, I've been like incredibly busy in a way that like I don't like. I think it's having an adverse effect on me, especially in the way that I think and how I'm sort of like viewing local church ministry as opposed to people that I can just sort of have this quick one-on-one, you know, touch that I don't have to sort of build any relational capital with. And I can just sort of say, hey, what's up? Good times, high five. And then I'm out of there because it doesn't require, it's easy. It doesn't require anything more of me emotionally or relationally. And so it's like if you got a whole group of guys that are just pursuing this and a whole group of guys that are doing this, like at the end of the day, it's speaking into something more serious than busyness. But so what's behind that busyness? Why do we love to be busy with those things that don't require the emotional output and the relational connection that local church does?
You know? I mean, it's where we get pats on the back, you know, and it's how we get ourselves through the slog of day-to-day life. We can always say, well, but in a week and a half, I'm flying to Indy to speak to 12 people or whatever. And it's how we get ourselves through the mundane. But I think we admire our parents and our grandparents for the kind of grinding that they did through the mundane when there was no conference circuit at the end of the week for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
Like, and we need to get back to that, dude. Like, really, what the H good is the conference circuit doing for anybody? Like, I wish we could just, I wish Winston Churchill had taken a lot of vacations so that we could just tell these guys, look, if what you want to do is get away, just get away. You know, you don't have to go and sit through 2.5 talks in order to justify, like, I don't know, taking your lady to Minneapolis for the weekend and just getting 2 nights in a Hyatt place and enjoying yourself.
Yeah, kicking it old school, like the way we used to do it in Fort Wayne,
like the way we used to do in Fort Wayne, baby. Absolutely. Just get yourself to Fort Wayne. That's the message.
Dude, is this an embarrassing? Are we getting into some embarrassment territory now with our own talk?
Baby, I think everything about that show was an embarrassment in the sense that it was just that was apropos of a certain moment, right? That certain like, hey, we're doing cool internet television and we're Christians, and it was dumb.
Dude,
but
internet television is hilarious, man. Even that phrase,
is hilarious.
Internet
television. I sound like an 85-year-old man when I speak in this terms.
Like, are you clicking on those internet television programs, Big T?
Exactly. Everything about that was stupid, but I enjoyed also every moment of it. So, you know, there's ambiguity there, but yeah, I mean, I think we're getting at the same thing, which is the busyness is at some level the thing that makes us the most happy, but it's also the thing that's kind of ruining our local church ministries. And dude, here's what we really need, right? We really need for Winston Churchill in one of these biographies to have said at some point, like, I take it easy sometimes. I take a rest. Because all these guys worship Winston Churchill and they all want to be him. And if Churchill had just said, you know, sometimes I sit in a chair and I stare at the wall, or sometimes I don't know, just listen to a record for fun and not as some like esoteric academic exercise, like, then I think these guys would have a much easier time.
I mean, dude, you know what's so weird about Churchill? Like, okay, so I've never read any biographies on Churchill, and so I've only ever watched like documentaries
I really don't care about
or like
Churchill
a movie.
that much, to be honest.
But like whenever you see him portrayed on screen, I always walk away going like, dude, he doesn't seem like that fun of a guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, he seems like really curmudgeonly, and he's always smoking a cigar, which I think is cool. And he's always drinking like mass quantities of scotch.
Yeah, he just seemed like a really unhealthy guy that was like a minute away of like physically like breaking down.
Yeah, like cardiac arrest is just around the corner at any point,
any second now. Right, exactly. CA, right?
Yeah,
so like the whole like reformed, like in this order, you know, we love like Jesus Christ, Paul, Luther, Calvin, and Churchill. Like, I don't...
Dude, totally.
Like, dude, I'm still kind of mystified. Oh, I forgot Spurgeon, throw him in there. But, like, I'm just kind of mystified by that whole thing, right?
I don't think Churchill would have done great as a local church pastor. I know that's a hot take, but I'm just putting it out there.
Dude,
I don't think he would have been great.
How dare you say what you just...
I know, baby. It's borderline. I sound like the liturgist right now.
We are the liturgists right now. And we're baby, like the reformed liturgists because we're just hitting against Churchill.
If I had made my voice more quiet and whispery and vulnerability voice, if I had said it in that voice, I would sound just like the liturgist.
You mean like if Churchill would have made like a really good local lead pastor, like Ted? Yeah. I don't know if he would have made a local lead pastor. I mean, I don't think he would have.
I don't think he would have. I think we're being horrible people right now.
Are we? Why? Because we're trying to take down Churchill. Do we have the power to take down Churchill,
baby?
If we have that kind of influence right now, I mean, I'm feeling real good about this program, man.
Are you and I going to ruin Winston Churchill for reform?
Dude, I think we just literally ruined Churchill for the church. Oh snap! Because people, see where I went with.
People are going to come at us for that. Like, we are the worst now because we've introduced doubt as it pertains to Winston Churchill's pastoral chops.
Do we just like Churchill because his name has the word church
has the word church in it? For the Churchill? I just bought that URL.
Did you just click on it right? Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah,
I was on GoDaddy.com and I noticed it had just been bought. That must have been you.
We'll go halvesies on it though, baby. We'll go partners on forthechurchill.com.
Dude, when are we going to do For the Churchill conference? I think that's the question everybody's asking right now.
But hey, you know, everybody rest, get off the conference circuit, but we're going to create like 4 new conferences now.
How would we do what would we do? What would a For the Churchill conference look like for us? Man?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what it would look like. It would be some combination of listening to talks and watching like war movies, like Churchill related war movies. That would be the conference.
Dude, is there still a thing like where like somehow like war movies are next to godliness? Not cleanliness, war movies are next to godliness. I think like 1917 and that whole gig.
Well, yeah. Like, you got to go all McCracky on the war movie now. Like, you can't just enjoy the war movie. Not like our dads and our grandpas did. Like, dude, one of my best memories of childhood, and this is crazy that I remember this. So my dad was always kind of letting me stay up late to watch, you know, Monday Night Football with him and stuff, which was amazing. But I remember one time we had just gotten cable, which was a big deal, and the George C. Scott movie Patton came on. Yeah.
He won an Academy Award for that gig.
Yeah, dude, and the movie was bananas. It was really good, and my pops, I was probably like 12, and he wanted to stay up late and watch Patton, and he let me stay up late and watch it with him, which was awesome on so many levels. But yeah, he was enjoying, like, he was just enjoying a war movie. Like, so for him, it wasn't like some esoteric, I'm going to write a 5,000-word think piece on what this means, you know.
Right.
But yeah, you got to go all McCrackian about it now with the war movie. You can't just like it.
I know, man. My pops, John F. Martin, man. He I mean, he was kind of old school. Like, he loved old movies. And I mean, if you go back far enough, that's all they were making was war movies.
Was war movies.
Yeah, everything was related to the war. And so, man, I
Westerns.
saw... Yeah, totally. I saw... Yeah, and Westerns were just like Western version of war movies. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if we're not slaughtering someone in an old movie, then it's really not an
I mean,
old
so
movie.
Literally, like, I grew up just watching all those old black and white, like, war movies.
Totally.
Where it was... Yeah,
dude, I mean, those were dope, though. Those were fun movies.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a simpler time, man. It was back when you could make a movie without it. The movie didn't have to be like a referendum or a sermon on politics or your worldview or whatever. You could just make an awesome movie, you know? I don't know.
You could make an awesome movie where everybody dies in the end, you know?
Yeah. You can make an awesome, probably horrible on so many cultural levels movie. But I don't know, baby. I long for that. I long for the simpler times. But you and I have conference work to do. We have to plan For the Churchill. We got to crank out some content for forthechurchill.com. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to stay really, really busy. And then 100%. In about a month and a half, we're going to come back and just urge people to be less busy while not taking any of our own advice.
Absolutely.
Because that's kind of the moment we're in. So,
and now that Pipe isn't on the show anymore, we'll be able to talk about this like every week.
Because he's busy.
Because he's
right?
busy. Correct.
Son of a... Yeah. That guy is the problem, right?
Yeah, Pipe's
he's
the
who we're
problem.
talking about.
Pipe, to me, to be honest with you, Pipe has always been the problem when it comes to any problems that we have.
I mean, it was the elephant in the room.
Always the elephant.
I mean, the thing. Yeah. Always. Yeah. I'm glad we're talking openly about it.
I mean, it's Brad, I'm getting a lot off my chest right now, baby, being able to talk about this. I mean, this is
well, no, this is good.
This is our cultural moment.
This is our cultural moment. And when we pivot this podcast away from what it was and make it the For the Churchill pod, official podcast production of forthechurchill.com.
Yeah.
Then and only then are we going to find real fulfillment in our work. And baby, now we have joked about this, but when this episode drops in like a week, what are the odds that some reformed dude is actually going to buy forthechurchill.com as a URL? And put some content on
100.
it. Yeah.
It's not even a question. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well,
baby, you want to talk about Live at Midtown? Speaking of cultural moments.
Let's talk about Live at Midtown. Let's end with that. Yeah, that's a huge cultural moment. Something to get away and enjoy,
Absolutely.
right? A way to be busy for us.
You know what? I was thinking about too, baby. What if we did this weird thing where we required everybody that walks in to like put their cell phone in like this little like baggie that we have so that nobody can be on their cell phones like the whole time.
So it'd be like a freshman philosophy class at college.
It'd be like
it's
what Jack White was doing last year when he did all of his concerts. You had to drop your cell phone like in a secure bag so that nobody takes pictures. You only are there to enjoy the show. So
yeah, dude. It's a sacred space. It's a sacred space.
Live
Put the phone down. Live in Midtown, we're going to think about that. I like that direction potentially. So, Ronald, tell us about when Live in Midtown is. I'm putting you on the spot.
I know you are, and I'm not good at that. So let me get
and it's because I don't know myself.
Let me get to the calendar. So it's going to be April 13th. It's going to be at 7 p.m. at Sojourn Midtown. That's one of their campuses. And so we want everybody to remember this is the day after Easter. So this is our post-Easter live rant. And so what we're looking for from our listeners is to it's going to be Easter themed. This is Pipe's first Easter. So we want just classic
Easter baskets.
Yeah, absolutely. So all kinds of fake green grass and chocolates
shredded
and
up
goodies.
Grass.
Yeah, the whole deal.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be decadent, baby, and I'm gonna make it real easy for people to get tickets. Okay,
do it.
I want you to go to www.happyrantpodcast.com on the internet. So in between watching your internet television programs, navigate right on over to happyrantpodcast.com. There's a big, bold buy my tickets button, and you should treat yourself to some Happy Rant Midtown live tickets because it's going to be fun. The live shows always have great energy. There are always high points in our busyness calendars. And you could also get tickets at forthechurchill.com. We'll have that online merchant page set up within hours of getting off.
In fact, you might feel more comfortable getting them at forthechurchill.com. That's fine.
We're might. It's a little more secure because it's almost like the ethos of Churchill himself is guarding the borders of that website.
Correct. And, whatever that means.
He's somewhere in heaven. Do we think Churchill's in heaven?
I mean, it depends who you
There's a fascinating question.
Talk to, right? I mean, I don't know.
I was almost going to say he's somewhere in heaven, like chomping on a stove, like looking out for thechurchill.com. But I don't know. I don't know how comfortable we feel that he's in heaven.
Yeah, I don't know where we're at with that. Like, do we like Churchill because of his politics or because of his like orthodoxy? Like, I don't know enough about. Like, it's amazing that I don't know enough about that, but I don't know enough about that.
Baby, you and I got to read some Churchill biographies this year.
And by that we mean I will never.
Dude, what's crazy is he might be like of all the guys in hell, he might be the most popular guy in hell among Reformed people.
Churchill.
Yeah.
Like, so all the reform people that aren't going to make it up, that go down, they'll have Churchill to keep them company.
No, I'm talking about like current reform people who are alive, like on the planet.
Yeah.
But of all the people in hell that they would be inclined to maybe like, he's probably at the top of the list.
Oh, dude, 100. Yeah, there's no doubt. And then, I mean, this is a whole can of worms we can open.
Who else is on that list?
I mean,
guys in hell that we like.
Reformed or not, guys that are in hell that we all love. Yeah. We probably shouldn't joke about that, baby, but...
no, we shouldn't. Yeah, that's not funny at all.
But it's not funny. There's nothing funny about that.
No. Baby, there's been very little funny about this program.
There's been some.
But yet I've enjoyed it. We've done 50 solid minutes of radio. There's been a little bit of ha-ha, a little bit of serious. Enjoyable, as always, to do radio with you in the absence of the very busy, very important Barnabas Piper. And we are excited for Midtown Live. So get your tickets, buy several, buy more than you need. Just be lavish about it, and be lavish about your Easter baskets too. So we have done what we always do on this program, Ronald J. Martin, in that we have wandered to and fro throughout several topics. And until next time.
The Happy Rant is brought to you by Resonate Recordings. If you go to resonaterecordings.com, you can see the full range of services they offer. So if you're considering starting a podcast, they are the ones we recommend going with. Again, go to resonaterecordings.com to see their prices, to connect with them and ask any questions, and to see what they can do to help you launch, edit, master, and improve your podcast. Again, go to resonaterecordings.com to see what they can do to help you launch and improve your podcast.